Do you love living in New York? Would you ever move back to the Midwest or no chance? Because I have a crush on New York, but I'm not in love with it. I have a huge, sexy crush. To me, it's like that woman that I'm like, I lust over New York, but I just know I couldn't marry New York. That's tough for me.
I've been there for 30 years. And by the way, it's even during the pandemic, we rented a house in the suburbs and I had a little garden and stuff like that. So I'm like, you got to be used to having no space and
forever.
paying way too much for nothing. So, but I do like the energy of New York. I
do.
it helps propel me. And I like the fact that I can, eat dinner with my family, then go do a spot, then come back and try and beg my teenagers to go to bed. So I like that. You know what I mean?
Is it wild raising kids in that city? Is it as hard as people joke about?
It is.
Because people are like, you got to move to the burbs to raise kids. But they've grown up in the city their whole life.
Yeah, they've grown. It's not like a danger thing like it used to be. Or if it was a danger thing, it's just expensive.
Yeah, it's all the money.
It's insanely expensive, but I also grew up, the town I lived in did not have the diversity that I want my kids to be exposed to diversity. I don't want them to be freaked out by two men holding hands, particularly if it's one of them's me and the other one's you.
Well, but you and I should hold hands.
No, but
Daddy's making a change. I know what you mean. Well, because also, I'm not going to. There's a family friend of ours that the Midwest can sometimes trap you too in certain ways, and
obviously it's changed so much.
100%. But the jokes are still there, where they're like, it is a little shocking when you don't live in a city where in L.A. or New York or Chicago you're kind of inundated with everyone. You don't have a choice. You have to see everybody.
Yeah.
And a family friend, there's a grocery store called Jewel.
Jewel Osco.
Yeah, Jewel.
I used to go, by the way, the Jewel Tea Fair. You don't know about that, do you?
I don't know what that is. No.
That was they used to have a fair. This was when I lived in Barrington until I was 8 years old, and I lived in Jewel Park, and where they had a jewel factory, I don't know. And they had the Jewel Tea Fair, and we would sneak in, and they would build a fair for employees. Anyway, go on.
I was waiting. I was letting you finish the Jewel Tea Fair. There was a jewel that a family friend had said, that's the lesbian jewel.
What do you mean, the lesbian?
And I was like, what does that mean, the lesbian jewel? And she was like, there was a couple of lesbians there when I was there last week.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, is this the first time you've ever seen two women there together? And she was like,
does it matter?
She was like, but you could tell that they were lesbians. I could see it. And I was like, right on. Does that make it the lesbian jewel because there was one? She's like, well, that's the frame. So sometimes you remember
and these are probably good people. That just,
But that's the lesbian jewel. And you know what's so funny? I say it now when I go buy it, just because you don't have a choice now. It's been transferred. I'm like, that's a lesbian jewel.
And when you do your comments on Yelp, you say the lesbian
jewel has the best bakery in town.
My sister's a lesbian and she lives in Chicago. I wonder if
she goes to that jewel. No, it's just that does happen. So I get wanting to look, you can't escape diversity when you live in a city. Which is a good point that you make.
And it's not just racial and kind of gender.
Everything.
It's economic diversity.
People, it's every kind of person you've ever imagined is going to live, and you're going to almost be forced to interact with them, which is that's really what it is.
Yes.
Your kids don't have a choice. Which one do you love the least?
Of my kids?
Mm-hmm.
Oh gosh. No, the weird thing is like, there's not one that I would give up. I know that sounds like a weird thing to say, but I remember when my wife was pregnant with a fifth, at that point I was, I was like on board, but like there was part of me that's like, what are we doing here?
We could just leave it at the hospital.
And he looks exactly like me. And
is he the only one that looks the closest to you?
No, but we call him my mini-me. And so like there is, and by the way, it's like, it's going to happen for you. You're going to have a kid. And if he or she looks like you, that's in biology. They do that so that you're like, all right, I won't eat it. Right.
But maybe if you get hungry enough.
Maybe if I get hungry.
But if you got hungry enough, you would eat the one I assume that looks the least like you.
Yeah, there's a couple black ones.
Right.
Those
you eat first.
That was an old joke that I had.
There's a couple of black ones. I love them all.
No, it's like I used to have this joke where I was like, this is when my daughter, who's now 17, when she was first born, I was like, my daughter, people say she looks like me, and I think she looks like my wife, except for she looks exactly like my wife, except for she's black.
Other than that, they're identical.
Right?
Are you kids redheadies? You got some redheadies?
My mini-me's a little redhead.
Oh, see.
He's a strawberry blonde.
Right.
Strawberry blonde.
You guys hold on to that.
But he gets, he's pretty, like my wife was, I guess when she was a kid, she was a little bit of a strawberry blonde. I didn't know her when she was a kid.
Of course not. I hope
I
not.
wouldn't have talked to her. She's a girl.
Yeah, gross.
Right?
Nasty. Don't take this the wrong way.
Yes.
That's the name of the show.